Okay, so yesterday I was talking about how our mind does a lot of creative writing in doing the worst case scenarios of all the fearful things that are going to happen and how we create fear within ourselves, envisioning things in the future that may or may not happen and being sure that they're going to happen and then getting ourselves all worked up into a state about it. Okay, so yesterday I talked about how it's not necessary to project into the future that way and write those stories, but bring ourselves back into the present. But then also I was saying that, you know, that we do need to think about the future and think of things that could happen so that we prepare for them, because if we don't prepare for things, then we're totally caught off guard. So for example, that's why we do the meditation on impermanence and death, because by thinking about death, that will inspire us to prepare for it. Okay, but here we're preparing for it without that panicky fear, but instead with wisdom. Okay, so what fear does when it writes the fearful scenarios is it says that there's absolutely nothing I can do. These circumstances are going to overpower me, and therefore I don't even wait for them to happen. I feel miserable right now. Okay, whereas it's very productive to remember that we always have choices, even in bad situations, and that there are always resources around us to which we can turn for help. So in any situation, there's likely to be external resources. If we get sick, there are hospitals and doctors and healthcare professionals. There are friends to take care of us. There are treatments to take. You know, there's medicine, there's so much that can happen. If we're in a difficult financial situation, you know, there's the external things, there's people who will help us through the difficulty and whatever. And there's also things that we can do. For example, in financial difficulties, we can stop wasting money on buying things we don't need, which we actually should have done as a country a few years ago. And would have saved us a lot of misery. Okay, so there's things that we can do, readjust our living style, and be just as happy. There's also internal things that we can do, internal resources that we have, that we can use to deal with bad situations. And this is where the thought training practice happens. And so we change the state of mind we're in. We, instead of getting angry and blaming outside, we see this as a ripening of karma and thus rejoice, okay? Or we use the difficulty to think of people who are in situations that are far worse and develop compassion. We use the problem to remind us of the nature of samsara, and thus to generate renunciation and the determination to be free. And so all these mental resources that we have also change our experience of the situation. Okay? So whereas when we have fear, worry, and anxiety, we don't see any choices. You know, in actual reality, there's many choices, either in terms of the environment, in terms of our own actions, in terms of how we view the situation and transform the experience through our Dharma practice. Okay? So if we think of things, difficulties that we could encounter in the future, instead of having this panicky fear and worry, then to think of, you know, the resources that we have at our fingertips. And if we don't have as many resources as we would like, for example, if our thought training practice isn't as strong as might be needed to deal with some difficulty in the future, then now we need to practice thought training with more energy and more commitment. Okay? So we don't just kind of do the mañana a la mañana thing of, you know, I'll deal with it when I come to it, and so therefore I won't train my mind now and then expect to be able to practice Dharma at the instant that we need it, but rather we really exert ourselves to practice now, transforming our mind now. And in the process of doing that, we start to purify the karma that could cause some of those bad situations. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, about how karma fits in with fear and bad situations tomorrow, and what we can do about that.